there, I'm Sujata and this is DIY Home of Mine, and today I am back with this awesome mobile table saw cart with folding out feed and folding in feed tables. You know, there are tons of instructional videos out there for table saw carts or table saw stations, but I found none for a mobile table saw cart with folding out feed table, which I needed. So I decided to build one for my small shop, not only a cart with the folding out feed table, but also a folding in feed table. It's not exactly an in feed table because that would be in front of the saw while feeding the stock, but let's call it so for lack of the right word. Nonetheless, this table or wing is very useful, especially when working with wide stock. And also I added a couple of other useful features to my cart other than these folding tables. We'll talk more about them later in the video, but now let's get building. I started by taking measurements of the table saw to build the carcass or frame out of 2x4s, which I cut to size on my miter saw. Frame was put together with pocket hole joinery, for which I used my Kreg jig to drill pocket holes in the frame pieces cut to size earlier. I did not use any glue in the frame construction, and usually I don't use glue in my shop projects, and all of them have held up pretty well with just the pocket hole joinery. So I built two identical sides for the frame with just one stretcher first, and before joining both the sides together, I put one side of the frame on the saw upside down and marked the locations for the second stretcher. Second stretchers would also work as the resting place for the saw. Then I attached 2x4s on those marks, offsetting by about 2 inches so that the saw sits proud of the top of the frame and guide rails move freely without any obstruction. And then using these stretchers as edge guides, I made 1/4 inch wide and another 1/2 inch wide dado in multiple passes with my trim router. These dados would be used as drawer guides for 2 drawers, one of which would be a dust drawer. Watch till the end of the video to see the dust drawer in action and let me know what you think about it. Then I finished the frame by joining front and the back with 2 sets of side stretchers. I put the saw inside the frame to check if the height of the cart was right for me, and to take into account the caster's height, I used 2x4s under the saw. To fit the saw in the frame, I had to remove blade guard holder plates from the side of the saw. After the basic carcass was done, next was to build the drawers. I built 3 drawers in total. 2 top drawers glide in the aforementioned dados in the frame, and I used Euro drawer slides for the bottom drawers. Why I did that, I don't know. I just, it is what it is. These drawers are constructed with basic lock rabbet joints. For the top 2 drawers, I cut the side pieces to size, made rabbets in the front and the back edges, then attached a trim on the side to fit them in the dados in the frame, and then measured for the front and back pieces before cutting them to the exact width. After all 3 drawers were built and fit in the frame, I attached the drawer faces by gluing and then screwing from inside of the drawers. Next, I used 1/4 inch thick plywood to cover the sides and the back of the frame, and to make my life a bit easier, I painted it before attaching to the frame with 1 1/4 inch long self-drilling screws. I used swivel lock casters on the frame, and when locked, they keep the cart from moving at all. It's pretty stable and sturdy when the casters are locked. Next, I worked on the infeed and outfeed wings, which are just basic drawers but upside down. I also built them with log rabbet joints, outfeed wing being a little wider and longer than the infeed wing. These band clamps were a big help in the assembly of both the wings. I also attached the corner supports for added strength to the frame and finished both the wings by gluing and nailing half-inch thick plywood to both the frames. To attach the infeed and outfeed wings to the frame, I used the top of the table saw as reference for the straightness of the wings when in use. I will try to explain, but still look carefully at these pictures for better understanding, just in case I don't make sense. I promise I will try my best, but just in case I can't, these pictures will help you better understand what I mean to say by the flatness of the wings with the top of the table saw. I used 8-foot long straight boards clamped to the saw and the wings to keep them in upright position, and then installed the hinges on the underside of the saw and the wings. There is a little gap between the frame and both the infeed and outfeed wings to keep them from binding with the frame when opening and closing. To achieve that, I attached 3/4 inch thick pieces of wood on the frame and then installed hinges on those pieces. I added extra half-inch thick pieces of wood on the back hinges for added gap for the table saw guide rails to move freely. Infeed wing is at the same level as the top of the table saw, but outfeed wing is lower by about 1/8 of an inch than the top of the table saw. To achieve that, I used a 1/8 of an inch thick shim under the boards to bring the outfeed wing at level with the top of the table saw. Later in the video, I will explain in detail the reason to keep the outfeed wing a little lower than the top of the table saw. To keep both the wings in open position when in use, I used these removable supports, which are nothing but 2x2s cut at 45-degree angles on both ends. One end of this bracket goes against a cleat attached on the underside of the wings, and the other end goes on a cleat attached to the cart frame. This is the trim attached on the underside of the wing against which the supports lean. When not in use, these supports can be stored in this housing made at the back of the frame. This housing also doubles as the cleat for the brackets for outfeed wing. Here I am building the housing with the cart in upside down position and the wings laid flat on ground. This also helps determine the length of the support brackets in a more comfortable way. Here I'm checking the movement of the saw when blade would be in bevel position. I had to make a small cut here on the frame for the angles higher than 30 degrees. I also made a 3-inch hole in the outfeed wing for the dust collector hose to pass through. For that, I first made a mark in the back wing in its closed position from the dust collection port of the table saw, and then made a pilot hole from underside of the wing, and then used a hole saw to cut the hole from the top side of the wing. And in the end, I fixed the saw to the cart with 4-inch long bolts and nuts. And with that, the cart was all done with its folding infeed table, folding outfeed table, a couple of drawers to store table saw accessories, a shallow drawer for dust collection, and a few hooks on the side to hang most frequently used items like ear muffs, push sticks, or a dust mask. So now let's take a look at these features one by one. Infeed wing. So distance from edge of the blade to edge of the table is about 36 inches, and this is at level with the table saw. So that makes it a lot easier and safer for me to handle the wider stock. Only one support is required to keep it in open position. One end of the support goes against the cleat on the wing and the other goes against this cleat attached to the cart. These cleats hold the bracket perfectly. It takes only a few seconds to fold up or fold down both the wings. So when we need to put the bracket up, just put the one end here and just lower the wing and it's all set. It's not going anywhere. When this needs to be folded down, just lift it up a little, take it out and slide the bracket right here. Outfeed table. Distance from edge of the table saw to the edge of the table is about 32 inches, and also this table is about 1/8 of an inch lower than the top of my table saw, which makes the transition of stock from table saw to outfeed table much smoother and safer. So let me show you what I mean in a minute. My stock is coming from table saw to the outfeed and it just glides through, and let's say this one is at level with the top of my table saw, and now this is level. This is 1/8 of an inch thick piece here. So this one will make the outfeed table at level with the top of my table saw. Now bring the stock here. So this is a serious kickback hazard. So that is why it's always a good idea to keep the outfeed table a little bit lower than the top of the table saw so that the transition is smoother and safer. This outfeed table is holding up with the help of two supports, unlike one in the infeed table, because this one is a little bit bigger and heavier than the infeed one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this video was well worth your time and you like this project as much as I loved creating it. And let me know in the comments which of the features on my cart you think are worth having and which ones I could simply do without. That's all for today, and until we meet next with another DIY project, take care. And also I added a cup. So these pictures will make it. I also made a 3-inch. These pictures will. I used